foundations of Western civilization were laid in classical Greece. In the century and a half between the end of the Persian Wars and the death of Alexander the Great, an explosion of creativity, centered on democratic Athens, produced timeless masterpieces and new genres of literature, inspired some of the most spellbinding art ever created, and introduced political and philosophical debates we're still grappling with today. Innovation continued after the classical period. The Stoic and Epicurean schools of philosophy were products of the Hellenistic world, as were the most impressive advances in Greek mathematics. But the efflorescence of the classical period was never repeated, and Greece gradually sank to the status of an unremarkable Roman province. Ancient explanations for this decline tended to be moralistic. Polybius, for example, claimed that the population had collapsed after parents became too decadent to raise their own children. The Romans, likewise, assumed that the political subordination of the Greek cities was both a cause and effect of their moral decay. Modern explanations also tend to begin with the fact that, after the end of the classical period, the cities of southern Greece, Athens, Sparta, and the rest, were dominated by a series of Hellenistic kingdoms, and finally by the Roman Empire. Although the campaigns and civil conflicts of these large states caused widespread devastation, kingdoms and empire brought a measure of stability to Greek politics. They ended the petty wars between city-states, and, by promoting oligarchic regimes on the civic level, they discouraged the internal instability that checkered the pasts of so many polis.
This is the agora of Thasos. Like most Greek agoras, it developed gradually over the centuries, beginning in the Archaic era. But most of what's visible today dates the Hellenistic and Roman periods, when local aristocrats endowed the square with a series of spectacular monuments. Under the Romans, this class was loyal to the emperors, and so built this altar of the Caesars, dedicated originally to Gaius and Lucius Caesar, the grandsons of Augustus.
Under Hellenistic and Roman rule, Greek cities were still free to elect their own officials and manage their internal affairs. But even the most powerful cities, which had once been the centers of their own miniature empires, were now subordinate to larger states. The courts of the kings and emperors, with all their wealth and patronage, were far away, as were the main lines of communication and trade. Despite that distance, and the devastating wars of the Hellenistic and Roman Republican eras, some Greek cities remained prosperous. Corinth, destroyed and then rebuilt by the Romans, is the most dramatic example. Roman patronage was also important, especially in Athens. Thanks to such support, and to the efforts of local notables, the cities of Greece looked more impressive under the Pax Romana than ever before.
This is the Forum of Philippi, one of the most important hubs of Roman control in northern Greece. The city owed some of its prosperity to the fact that it lay on the Via Egnatia, where I'm now standing, the famous highway that ran from Dyrrhachium, in what's now Albania, all the way to Byzantium. The city was a veteran colony, where thousands of retired troops were settled after their service. It was, accordingly, Latin-speaking for centuries, and the arrival of these troops was probably not welcomed by the local population at first. But the Romans brought prosperity with them, and in combination with the Via Egnatia and local gold mines, their presence made possible these wonderful monuments, whose remains we see.
As mentioned, the Hellenistic kings and the Romans tended to encourage oligarchic city governments, in which a few wealthy families dominated local affairs. Although these magnates could be generous to their fellow citizens, like Herodes Atticus, who built the Odeon on the Athenian Acropolis, they were political and social conservatives, concerned with maintaining the status quo and replicating the prestigious models of the past. That brings us to the greatest difference between classical and post-classical Greece, what might be called cultural inertia. During the Hellenistic and Roman eras, the Greek language and Greek culture spread more widely than ever before or since. Greek colonies were established in France and Afghanistan, and the Greek classics were so revered by the Roman elite that Horace could joke about captive Greece subduing her Roman overlords.
This is the theater of Philippi. Like most Greek theaters, it was heavily rebuilt under the Romans. The first few rows were taken up and replaced by the barrier you see today, which allowed beast hunts and gladiatorial combats to be staged there. The stage building, formerly simple, was replaced by a grandiose three-story affair, and the seats themselves, in the lower rows at least, were replaced by these marble blocks. Yet despite all these embellishments and the new program of blood sports, the basic bill of fare theatrically remained quite conservative. Sophocles, Aeschylus, Menander, the other greats of the classical and early Hellenistic periods were shown here still throughout the Roman period, a testament to the conservative cultural tastes of Roman Greece.
But the Greek culture that conquered the world was, or at least could seem, a finished thing, bristling with unassailable classics. Greek poets kept writing, and Greek philosophers kept thinking. With few exceptions, however, these latter-day creators were self-conscious successors, working in established genres and imitating respected models. In other words, the literary and artistic triumphs of the classical period, from the dialogues of Plato to the sculptures of Praxiteles, came to be so respected and influential that they profoundly influenced Greek cultural tastes for the rest of antiquity. The classical canon, enshrined in a conservative educational system, came to be regarded as the core component of Greek identity. Every educated Greek who lived after the classical period was thus in its shadow. Classical Athens, which looms so large in our conception of ancient Greece, owed the astonishing creativity of its thinkers to abundant and enlightened patronage, political and cultural ferment, and the indefinable qualities of individual genius. But when the patronage dried up, the ferment was stilled, and those indefinable geniuses were gone. Refinement replaced revolution, and Athens became a prisoner of her glorious past. In political terms, post-classical Greece was more stable than ever before. Economically, many cities flourished, but its culture was embalmed. In the Roman imagination, at least, Athens was a museum and Sparta was a relic, and both were enveloped in a timeless landscape of quiet pastures, rumpled hills, and eternally blue sky. My new book, Insane Emperors, Sunken Cities, and Earthquake Machines, is now available as a paperback, ebook, and audiobook. You can buy your copy through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or your local bookstore. For more Told Stone content, check out my channels, Told Stone Footnotes, and Scenic Routes to the Past, which are linked in the description. Please consider joining other viewers in supporting Told Stone on Patreon. Thanks for watching.